What's going on, guys? Bob Mentality here. And today I want to jump into some analysis on the ES futures and also look at a couple beta names and the VIX. So let's kind of take a look at this. This is my first time really jumping into it here this evening. So let's look at the big picture first. Let's just zoom out on the weekly. Here's what we've got. We've gotten essentially a significant pullback way back here in October, right? That was the last significant pullback we had, right? Followed by 2 brief weeks of a downside here, reclaiming that 46, and we went straight up. So let me zoom out a little bit more. Does any of this say the market's crashing or going to crash? No, okay? Right now, until the bears prove it on the weekly, we don't have any concrete bearish bias to go on for the macro perspective from the big picture time frame. As of right now, we're seeing a weekly uptrend with minor pullbacks here on the downside, and that's what we have to go off of. So let's zoom in. Let's look at the daily. We zoom in here on the daily. You can see the prior double test here, that 4,500 area that I was talking about before we reclaimed all-time highs and then ripped up. Ripped up is kind of a little bit exaggerated. We took the next leg up, okay? We essentially went from 4,700, confirmed to 4,800, and we're stuck at 4,800. What's interesting about this, and this is one of the things I pointed out in my room this morning, we got the breakout to a new all-time high over that 4,800 this morning, early this morning, with very little follow-through. I think it was, we were below, what, 4,807 this morning, and that's very little follow through given how many times we had attempted to test this 4,800. I mean, we got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a whole week of consolidation below 4,800. And I mean, just below it. And we were able to touch it a couple times or just below it and then rallied up, broke it today, and no immediate follow through, which was a little bit concerning. And I talked about that this morning in the chat room, which is why I sold out of my long side position up in this 4,800. It was 4,801 was when I exited before the open, and then we popped up a little bit here and then rolled. So here's a scenario. I think let's not overcomplicate it, okay? On the 4-hour perspective, our main demand is going to be on that 4720 is what really looks good. 4720. Where'd you get 4720 from? That's essentially around where we were bottoming on this 4700. If you want to say 4700 demand, you can say that as well. On the daily, we have a small reference at 4750. Zoom in here on the 15-minute. You see we got plenty of demand pivots here into that 4750 lows, right? You could say 4760 if you wanted to. We pushed up to all-time highs, so we got supply at 4808. And at 47.97, right around there. So essentially, if you were going to draw support and demand watch for the overnight session, you want to be watching that, I'm going to say 47.60 here and the 4,800. Over 4,800, if we manage to reclaim 4,800, that is a really good sign on the resilience of the bulls. You'll see we've had consistent higher lows here above that 47.60, and then we push back above 4,800. That's a great sign. If we get over 4,800 again, that looks really good for the bulls. Otherwise, if we get below that 47.60, things start to get a little bit sketchier. And the reason I say that is because under that 760 or 47.50 area, the next demand is going to be that 47.20. Below 47.20, what are we looking at? 4,600. You know what I mean? I mean, we could, after that point, we essentially just have spent all this time consolidating to make a new all-time high, failed to get any ground, and rolled back over. So on the SPY here, the bears definitely need to prove themselves. They need to get us lower overnight under that 47.60. Otherwise, the longer we hang around 47.80, I think we're just going to magnet back to 4,800 and see continued upside, okay? The ES does not really look that bad. It does not really look that bad. If we jump over here on the Qs, all right, take a look at the Qs. You can see we got nailed, okay? We got absolutely nailed. If you zoom out, same thing. You zoom out here on the weekly. What is the macro bearish picture? Where is the world is ending coming from, right? It's a little bit less linear to the upside compared to the ES. We're channeling sideways here. We haven't broken out over recent highs. Yes, that is a minor bearish divergence, but at the same time, where's the panic, right? That being said, okay, if we're seeing a little bit of bearish divergence here on the NQ, right, and the ES just made higher highs, what happens when the ES makes lower lows? If the Qs are already bearishly diverging right now, chances are if they do get hit, I mean, we could see Qs if the SPY hits, 40, let's say 47.20, that'd probably correlate with closer to 15.5 here on the NQ just because of that bearish divergence, right? This thing could roll over and get killed through that 16,000. That's something to keep in mind. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the VIX. Taking a look here at the VIX. Nothing significant. I'm going to go to the 15-minute here, 5-day, 15-minute. Nothing significant. Yes, the VIX saw an upside move because the market rolled over today. But as you can see, we sunk down here into that 1660, popped up barely green to the close, and we're sitting under 17. I've said it multiple times. Until we get over $20 on the VIX, where's the fear? It's not here, essentially it. So the bears, if they're going to look to see any significant downside move, I mean, I'd price the VIX probably at 18 to 1850 if we hit that 17 or that 47.20 on the ES. But anything under 20, it's really not that impressive. We'll look at a couple beta names here. Apple, one of the things you need to take a look at. It closed at the lows, sunk down there into the close. We'll look at Tesla. Tesla was the name of the game bullish, yesterday. And then today, guess what? Closed near the lows. We'll look at Microsoft. Guess what? Closed near the lows. Well, it had a nice little bounce off the lows, but sinking back down here after hours. Okay. The two strongest sectors, or not sectors, but really it's just semiconductors have been going crazy. Take a look at NVIDIA. Nice bounce off the lows there, and nice curl. Notice how it didn't give it up into the close. And AMD, same thing, popped up here into the close. These are stronger looking names, but they were also the first to dump off the open. So I mean, it's kind of however you want to look at that. Those are some of the names that are interesting. But the issue is, because with so many beta names, I'll just use Apple as an example. With so many beta names closing near these lows, they can easily snap for downside confirmation into tomorrow's session. Like if, for example, Apple could go from 1717 down here to the 177, right? It could easily just pull down into that. So you need to keep an eye on that. I said 1717. I mean the 179 going to 177. Apple could do the same thing. If you look at Amazon, we haven't glanced at that one. It's popped up off the lows, but it could easily open on that 33.29 and then get hit. And then where's it going, right? You'll notice that a lot of these beta names look similar to the Qs. When that Q would move down to that 16,000 or that 15,500 level I spoke about. What if happens when Amazon snaps that 33.20? Let's just say, where's it going to go? 3,200. You see what I'm saying? You go look at Apple. If Apple ends up snapping that small downside channel here on 179, it can go straight to 177. Right? If 177 doesn't hold, where's it going to go? 170, 173, 172.50. These are the kind of questions you got to watch. You got to, ask yourself. So while the ES is doing a great job holding up, beta closed weak. I'm not very impressed with the after hours price action here. It really depends on the ES. If the ES can manage to reclaim, I would expect tech names to hold today's lows. If the ES, I just typed the wrong chart. If the ES is able to hold those lows. Otherwise, if we see this futures ES gap down, I think tech could get killed on the gap down just based off that NQ bearish divergence. So based off the macro picture, there is no reason for broad concern about, bear market coming or whatever yet, okay? But in the short-term perspective, yes, we can see some volatility to the downside if the bears can confirm during the overnight session. So, all right, guys, that's all I got. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Continue to focus on developing that bot mentality, which is the trading mentality, where you learn to eliminate your emotions so you can trade like a machine, guys. I am out of here. Deuces.